I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Hot Pursuit.
We have a lot to talk about today. Hannah's back from Saudi Arabia, but still on Middle Eastern time.
Yes.
I have took delivery of, bought, and licensed my new car. Plus, I've been test driving one of my dream cars, a truck. So we'll discuss those things. Plus, you have a story out on Supercar Blondie and yet another auction site, but it may make sense, right?
Yeah, I think it very well could make sense.
You're also test driving a G-Wagon, the big AMG version. So I want to talk about that. I owned the lesser version a couple of years ago in Berlin. And we've got some cool emails that we're going to go over. What's the email address again?
The email address is hotpursuit@bloomberg.net, and we do really appreciate your emails. I also got a phone message from my mom, but that was somehow emailed to me.
How'd she get your number?
So thanks, Mom. I'm not sure, but thanks for that. But email also works, hotpursuit@bloomberg.net.
Awesome. Yeah, we do love the emails because, A, we like to connect with our listeners and engage, converse with our listeners, but also we get a lot of content that way, or we get good content, I think. Maybe not a lot, but quality over quantity. Let's kick it off with the Supercar Blondie story, because initially when I think, another auction site, like I'm already searching on Auto Trader and Auto Tempest for normal cars, and then I'm going on BAT. I spend like at least an hour a day on Bring a Trailer.
We all do.
Yeah. Doug has Cars and Bids, which I've started looking at as well. And
there's collecting cars in the UK.
Yeah, that's the Chris Harris thing.
Yep.
My buddy James Little works for them, makes really cool videos. Recently, I watched one that he did of a Bentley, so I want to talk about that.
Yes.
Oh, I got to talk about my new obsession with, or my increased obsession with Bentley. It is a love-hate thing. But Supercar Blondie, whom a lot of people know from social media, has started another auction site, which I would think we don't need one, but it's specifically targeted at the hypercars that she profiles, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Supercar Blondie, it sounds like, Matt, you're familiar with her. For anybody who isn't familiar with her, she is a very influential content creator. She started her YouTube platform in 2017. She's Australian. Her name's Alex Hershey, and she runs the brand with her husband, Nick Hershey, who actually is a former Bloomberg employee, I should say, from several years ago. But he's a finance guy who quit, and now they have Supercar Blondie, this brand. She actually counts 2 billion viewers a month across all of her platforms. Which is wild. And she is launching on March 18th something called SBX Cars, which is going to be, like you say, an online car auction platform. And the platform is going to specialize only in the ultra rare kinds of hypercars and supercars that she features. So it's not going to be like Ferrari 488s and Lamborghini SUVs and BMW M3s. It's going to be like the Hyperion prototype and a BMW hydrofoil glass boat. And there will be a Tesla Cybertruck offered. But it's like a Mercedes-AMG 1. They've got some John Player special Formula One cars from the 70s and 80s that they're going to sell. So she's focusing really on the highest of the high end. And Alex says, look, there are enough people buying and selling these cars, and they don't have a place that is only premium. Now, of course, we've seen Bring a Trailer sell $1 million cars. It's been done. People will do it. But Alex and Nick argue there isn't a place for simply only extremely premium cars. So
which
that's
is true.
What they're trying
not
to
for only
access.
But there is like your friends at Gooding or Sotheby's,
of course.
They don't only sell those, but they do sell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Lewis Hamilton's $18 million Formula car that RM Sotheby's sold during the Formula race in Las Vegas last year is a perfect example. I really think, by the way, that those Formula cars are going to really gain in value. But that's an example of RM Sotheby's doing the same type of thing. And so now we've got a new entry. And I think the real question with it is, does a big social media platform actually translate into being able to sell things? And will people trust you to sell their very expensive and special cars.
Especially for that clientele. Like, I mean, I know a guy who collects very expensive cars. And, you know, he's a Wall Street, like a titan, and he is, you know, he's like an Aspen, St. Moritz kind of guy. She. Right. But he doesn't spend a lot of time on social media. I doubt that he's one of the 2 billion views. And by the way, I imagine it's 2 billion views, not 2 billion viewers a month, right? Because that would be like a fourth of the people on Earth follow Supercar Blondie.
I think it's views. If I said viewers, take that back. But I can give you another figure. They claim 110 million subscribers. So maybe that's more of a concrete number.
Still huge.
Still big. And I did ask her about that. And Alex really says, look, it's not that every billionaire follows us. Of course they don't. Many aren't even on social media, like your friend. But the argument for her is that they can put out a video and guarantee it's going to be seen by 20 million people at any given point. And eventually, whatever's in the video will trickle down to someone who's going to buy it. Maybe somebody shares the video on WhatsApp, or, you know, word gets out because they naturally have such a big platform anyway.
I think so. The Supercar Blondie story is interesting on so many levels, right? Number one, she herself and the business that she's built is fascinating. Number two, I love the content that she puts out, and obviously so do a lot of other people. Number three, we care about these cars, especially you. That's your bag. And then number four, will the business, you know, is there room for another auction platform? Is she going to have trouble competing with the guys at Gooding and Sotheby's? What do they think about this? They might be a little bit unhappy about her encroaching on their territory.
That's a very fair question, and I spoke with David Gooding, I spoke with Rob Myers, I spoke with the guys at at Barrett Jackson. So yeah, it's a fair question, and as you might expect, you know, they're tentatively watching. You know, I spoke with Ed at Collecting Cars. He really made the point that, look, this business isn't just about gaming and SEO or figuring out an algorithm for reaching people. It's about a lot of hard work and knowing how to run an auction. It's about more than just being able to be online. And David Gooding really, I said, what does it take to be good in this world? And he says, a high tolerance for pain and misery, basically. So, you know, these are guys that have done this for 20, 30 years. I do know it's a lot of work. It's not glamorous. But then again, they're coming from a position of more of an old model, obviously not at Collecting Cars. But, you know, I think the sentiment seems to be it's not as easy as it looks.
Right.
And Bring a Trailer has made it look very easy. And we had Randy on, and we love Randy, and we know that he does a great job with Bring a Trailer. But the thing is, Bring a Trailer makes it look easy, and it's not easy.
Well, Bring a Trailer, I think, is on another level. Because, and that's something that was created. It was a passion project that turned into a very successful auction site.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, Doug, we talk about Doug DeMuro all the time. I figure everyone who cares about cars knows Doug DeMuro because he's had such a huge impact in terms of his YouTube videos. And that's another thing. He had this massive passion, and then I don't know how he came up with the idea for Cars and Bids, but he then sold it for a few $1 million and then promptly used those few $1 million to buy really cool cars.
Car. Yeah,
which is awesome, right? But now Supercar Blondie, obviously she's also passionate about cars, and she's created this huge social media following. She probably saw Doug. Well, you know, how did she come up with the idea?
Well, Alex says that many of the people that she has come to know over the years because she features their cars have asked her, hey, I'm looking for such and such a car. Can you help me find one? Or, hey, I would like to sell this car that you featured. Do you know anybody who wants to buy it? So Alex really says, look, I've built this network of collectors, of owners for the past 7 years since she's been going around the world documenting the cars, and that's very valid. And Alex says, look, these people are asking me, can you help us find somebody to sell this car, or somebody who might want to buy this car? So she claims she has quite a network built up that actually perhaps an RM Sotheby's or a Gooding may not be able to tap into.
And, you know, she's also young, and people with money are increasingly younger, right? And people's tastes are changing. I think that's interesting because something like Sotheby's. It
The way you say it.
Well, it just seems like something old people would go to, right? Even the Concours d'Elegance, like these things seem like events for old people. Young people are, watching Supercar Blondie, and maybe she has a really good point there. Like if you're a cool kid who some kind of Nepo baby, or if you inherited hundreds of millions of dollars, or you sold your video game making company, and now you want to buy a sweet car, it's probably much more fun and cool to hang out with Supercar Blondie, than go to a Concours d'Elegance on Amelia Island or whatever. So, yeah.
I think that's really true. Alex is a smart girl. She is a very hard worker. She's very motivated, and she has a great team around her. So I would never, ever underestimate what she's able to do. I mean, before her YouTube channel, she was a radio show host in Dubai. And she has created something.
Dubai?
Yeah. Yes. She's Australian, but she resides in Dubai with her husband. So I would never, ever underestimate what she's able to do. I think she's motivated and smart. And if she wants to do something, you got to pay attention to it.
So you were in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And last time we spoke, you were at this Bloomberg event and you were interviewing, powerful people in the world of racing. But then you went off on like your little adventure.
We went off-piste.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was that like? What did you do?
It was great. I have to say, first of all, I did make it to practice rounds of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Jeddah, which were very cool. I was very happy to see those. I was in the Aston Martin paddock and saw the new safety car, the new Vantage safety car, which is super cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I got to talk with the guy who's driven the safety car for like 25 years. He's German. His name's Bernd. I'm going to murder his name, so I'm not going to say it.
No, please try it.
Very. I'm not. As someone who's lived in Berlin. Yeah. Yes. That. So that was great. But then I went off on this pilgrimage to a place called Alula, which is in the desert about 4 hours outside of Medina. And I visited a hotel called Habitas Alula, which is truly in the middle of nowhere. Now, you might have heard of Medina because it's the stopping off point before Mecca. So Medina has a constant flow of pilgrims on their journey to Mecca. So it feels extremely foreign to my LA sensibilities. But I was in the desert at this amazing hotel called Habitas Alula. And I'm going to be writing about it, but it's sort of portrayed as a Burning Man in Saudi Arabia, and I wouldn't quite go that far. There's no alcohol.
Were there drugs?
No, there's not.
To be Burning Man,
right.
There has to be a lot of drugs.
That's kind of where your mind
drugs.
That's where your mind goes. There are no drugs. There's no alcohol on the premises. There are no orgies. It's mostly Saudi families in very traditional dress, fully covered.
So just the fact that it's in the desert.
And of course there are art installations around. The pool's incredible. I will say, to be honest, the no alcohol thing did not put a damper on any amount of fun.
Did you not get a drink the whole week?
Oh, I'm still going. I didn't have I didn't have a drink for like 8 days, 9 days, and I've just kept it going.
But
we'll see how long it lasts.
I mean, aren't there oases there? Aren't there places for Westerners to get booze?
So I actually thought, surely, once you get into the boutique hotel, there's going to be a back stash. They'll have a little bit of wine.
Yeah.
Surely. No. Absolutely verboten. No.
Wow.
Now, I'm told if you go sailing or if you leave land and you go out into the Red Sea and you're on somebody's boat, then there will be alcohol there. But I'm like you, Matt. I kind of thought, yeah, whatever. There's going to be a little bit somewhere. No, absolutely not.
You also are driving this week an AMG G63. So it's the G-Wagon that's super pumped up. This is what I imagine everybody in Saudi Arabia drives, but you're driving or in LA. In LA. So you're in both places, right?
Beverly Hills, yes.
First of all, I mean, I would say what's it like, but I know it's amazing.
We know it. The thing is, look, this is nothing new. This has been around since '79. We all know what it's like. We know that it's perfect. What can I say? There's a reason it's an icon. It's a diamond that just needs a little bit of polishing every now and then when they do a model year update. But as far as I'm concerned, I would not change anything. I'm even so outre as to say I love the monobloc wheels. I love the night package. The one I have is this like olive metallic color that costs like $7,000 more.
Oh, I know the color. Very nice.
I mean, it's to die for, and it just makes you feel so bossy and rude when you're driving it, and I love the power. I get drunk on power when I drive.
I'm a huge fan. I bought the base model, the G500, the year they came out with like the real independent suspension update, which is a change I'm so happy they made. Purists were angry about it at first, but it drives a billion times better and is almost as capable off-road, really.
Yeah.
Depending what you're doing, maybe more capable off-road. I love those trucks, but they're just so expensive. I've always thought Mercedes has really missed a trick, because how cool would it be if right now I think they can only make them at the Magna Steyr plant in Graz, which you've been to.
Yes, in Austria. That's right.
And they can only make a certain amount. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Unfortunately.
I wish they would make the VW Bug, right? A people's car. I wish they would make an affordable version.
The Pook.
Like the
two-door.
Like that. But you know what? They could easily replicate it instead of a $150,000 car, they could make it, a $50,000 vehicle, and they don't.
Yes.
I know they want to Mercedes is very focused on the higher end, the bigger, fatter margins. I totally get that. But I just feel like this is a car every kid likes, the shape. It's just easy to draw, and you want to feel the doors close when you get in and start it up.
The doors sound so good when you slam them shut.
Yeah.
It's just like a safe that you're slamming shut. But about the price, I have to say, this is how warped my mind is. I was remembering because someone amazing had emailed in and talked about the fact that you hadn't driven the Taycan yet.
I haven't.
Actually,
I haven't driven.
That was an email from Doug. So, Doug, thank you for your email.
Not Doug DeMuro.
No, a different Doug. So I was looking up, they just came out with the Porsche Taycan Turbo GT. And, of course, they set a lap record with the Weissach package turbo. So I'm like going down a deep dive of this.
On the Nürburgring.
On the Nürburgring, yeah. But so I see that the Weissach package starts at $230,000. Then I go back to my beautiful, humble G-Wagon, my G63, and I see that it starts at only $179,000. So if you ask me, it feels like a bargain. And even with all of the extras in the one that I'm driving, which includes, the monobloc wheels, the olive metallic paint, blah, 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 it's only $205,000, which is far cheaper than that sedan.
Right. You can,
come on.
First of all, there aren't many options to check on the G-Wagon.
Right.
So you don't really option it up to a Valhalla.
It's already got everything.
Secondly, with the Taycan, as good as it may be and as fast as it is around the Nürburgring, it's still going to take you at least 20 minutes to fill it up if you can find a charger that no one's waiting and it's not broken.
Yes.
Whereas the G-Wagon, you just pop up into any gas station and
gas and go, baby.
Exactly. I wouldn't have thought to compare those two, but I would like to drive.
It's not a natural comparison.
I would like to drive the Taycan, and obviously it's going to be completely different behavior, right? Because the thing about the G-Wagon, it's so tall and boxy, it looks like it's going to flip over when you turn it. What I love is that when you really go into a curve hard, you don't feel like it's going to actually fall over. Or maybe I edited my behavior behind the wheel to save the money. By the way, when I bought mine for an eye-watering price, and that was just the base model, I didn't realize that a couple years later I would sell it at a profit. It's the only car I've ever sold not at a loss.
That, to me, is such a testament and a testimony to the glory that is the G. How many vehicles can you say that about?
I wish I hadn't been forced to sell it, but shipping costs soared.
I feel like you're gonna be bitter about that for a long time, and I don't blame you.
And
I would
and the regulations suck too, because
I
bought a 911 here which is the first time I spent an exorbitant amount of like all my money on a car. And I was able to bring it to Germany. So I bought it in the U.S. and I was able to bring it over to Germany and drive it no problem. But if you buy a car that's made in Germany, you're not allowed to bring it back to this supposedly free country, right? Because of the regulations.
That seems weird.
It's horrible.
A lot of people pick up their cars in Germany and bring them back, though.
I wasn't. Yeah, well, they have to be specially made for the U.S. And the only changes are not really significant in terms of engineering. It's just that instead of stamping an E on the headlight, they make the U.S. It's the same headlight, right?
Yeah.
They just change the software a little bit so it won't be able to work as well in the U.S. because we have regulations.
Dumb it down.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
We're used to it.
Even with the motorcycles, like right before I was transferred back from Berlin, I bought a BMW R9T, the 719 version, which was awesome. And I wasn't allowed to bring it back. By the way, I dealt with the bureaucracy this week at the Department of Motor Vehicles. So I finally got my family truckster, the Mercedes GLS 450. I'm excited to say that I paid half pretty much of the original MSRP by buying a 2021 version with 34,000 miles. Yeah, I don't know why anyone ever buys new cars.
Frankly, me neither.
So we get it for basically 50% off from my new friends at Galpin in Los Angeles. They ship it over here. The shipping was fantastic and fast and not a scratch on the vehicle. But I had to do the whole licensing process myself, registration and get the licenses. I had to go to the DMV 3 different times.
Which one? Which actual office?
In White Plains. New York. And the thing is, you see a different person each time. So the first person will say, you need A and B, or we can't do this. And I come back with A and B, and the second person says, no, you need C and D for sure. And you didn't even need B. So everybody has a different idea of what you need. They all go back to supervisors and ask questions. I feel, I'm not angry with the people who work there because it seems like a horrible place to work.
Yeah.
But
that's nice. You have compassion.
Why do we have these masses of regulation that just make life harder and not as enjoyable? I sort of know why, but I finally got it licensed and drove it home, and I'm so excited. The main thing I love about it is that it's the same color that our G500 was in this emerald green. I don't know if you've ever seen it in real life.
I love green. No.
It's it looks black in almost every light, unless it's in direct sunlight.
Does it have metallic flake in it?
Yes.
Slightly?
So if it's in direct sunlight, then it's all of a sudden oozing metallic flake. Like somebody just poured out stripper sprinkles on it. And it's emerald green. It's so beautiful. But in any other light, it's black. And so I love that. And then I got... you know how obsessed I am with big trucks that have giant diesel motors. Yes. So Ford delivered, bless their hearts, an F-250 King Ranch with a Tremor package. Gosh. It has the 6.7 liter, what's it called? The Power Stroke turbo diesel with 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. That's just insane.
Wow. That's scary.
An insane amount of push.
Yeah.
And it's in this really cool color, antimatter blue. And I've had a couple cars with that before. It's the same kind of thing. It looks black in almost every light, unless there's direct. You need even more sunlight for this one. And then it has the sparkly blue tone, which is amazing. And I absolutely love this truck. Hannah, I'm going to tell the people at Ford to give you one for a week.
Okay.
Because
I want it. I want it.
The thing about it is, of course, it's nothing like your Rolls-Royce or, a huge Luxo barge.
Yeah, no.
But it does have that. It does have the push, right? And that's the thing that Rolls-Royce has and Bentley has. They have a massive amount of torque, but this has double what those have. And even though, it's a heavy-duty truck and it's got off-road suspension, so it doesn't absorb the bumps. It's not the magic carpet ride. But when you put your foot down, no matter what, no matter where you're going, even though it's heavier than, an oil tanker, it's just, boom, it goes.
What are you going to do with it?
Well, it puts such a huge smile on my face. It makes my life better to drive it.
Oh, wow.
And what I keep doing is comparing it to the Chevy version that I had a few weeks ago. I had the Chevy Silverado 2500 HD ZR2 with a 6.6 liter Duramax. These names are so long and whatever. My wife makes fun of me for that. But they're essentially the same kind of thing. They're heavy-duty trucks with the off-road package and the big diesel motor. But they're very different vehicles because the Chevy, I think, and maybe it's because of the suspension, it's got that really trick suspension that comes out of Canada, I believe, and it just does absorb the bumps on the road. By the way, neither one of these vehicles I'm going to use for their intended purposes. I'm not hauling anything. I'm not using them for any work projects, and I'm not taking them off road.
Where are you parking it?
I can only park it outside because it doesn't fit in any garage, neither one.
Okay,
but
that'll be fun.
Basically, I'm just driving into Bronxville. I pull up in front of Lang's. I go in there and get a toasted corn muffin with extra butter and an Arnold Palmer. I'm just cruising to Starbucks,
just
maybe I'm going to Cars and Coffee. Yeah. So I'm only driving these on the road. And the best thing for me that they're useful for is just munching miles. Like they can just go on the highway and they have, 1,000-mile range. Not quite 1,000, but over 600 miles of range. But the Chevy is more of like a luxury product. I feel like the Chevy is more high end, and even the interior feels better appointed, whereas the Ford feels like more of a work truck. I wear my cowboy hat in it because I feel like I am going to the farm.
This is cosplay level.
Yeah,
here. We're getting close.
It drives that, but it's bouncy and jouncy over highway joints, and
What are you listening to when you drive this truck? Like what music?
Well, I listen to the Dead in almost every truck, and I drove this Ford, this King Ranch, last night to the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, where I saw Phil and Friends, which is Phil Lesh. He's the bass player for the Grateful Dead, and
I didn't know, but
it was
I'll
amazing.
Try to remember.
But I'm also listening. I was listening to Ministry this morning.
Oh, cool! All right,
the
I
New
can
World
get behind
Order
that.
single there, and what else have I listened to in these?
Were the girls with you at this point, or no?
When the girls are in the car, I'm typically listening to the Dead because Edna requests it, and I don't think my infant child wants to be hearing Alan Jurgensen. But
yeah,
I listen to a lot of different stuff. It's not the same kind of 70s metal that I would listen to in my Challenger. In the truck, I feel it's more like country, and the Dead makes more sense.
Yeah, I could see some Willie Nelson maybe.
But my point is, the Chevy version, it's more luxurious, and it's more, I think, about the driver like me who isn't buying these trucks really to work on the ranch or to haul huge trailers. And I don't do any of the precise testing that Road and Track or
Roman, our friend Roman from TFL,
or Roman at TFL do.
Yeah.
But the Chevy doesn't feel as fast. The Ford has a lot more get up and go, but I think it's more of a refined suspension. So anyway,
in the Chevy. So does that mean that you would choose the Chevy over the Ford?
Well, I don't know, because they give you a different feeling. In the Chevy, I love it so much, but I feel kind of like an imposter because it's too good.
Oh.
I feel like I should be drinking a cappuccino.
Matt, you are worthy.
In the Chevy. And in the Ford,
of it.
I feel like I should be drinking a beer, and carrying a shotgun. So, and neither one of those things I would do on public roads in New York. But
no.
Yeah, I think just my 2 cents on the difference between those two vehicles. I need you to try these big diesel motors.
I want to. I would really like the chance to try to park it in the Bloomberg parking garage, because that I already know will be a nightmare.
You can't park them in the parking garage. And the other thing about both of these big heavy duty off-road diesel trucks is that they're kind of too expensive for me. I mean,
what's the price point?
I didn't look at the Monroney, but I've configured both the F-250 and the Silverado 2500. I don't get below like 88,000, and really they both go above 90, because you got to you have to put a winch, right?
I guess,
in case you ever need to pull somebody out.
Right. It'd be embarrassing if you showed up somewhere and you didn't have a winch.
You have this tool. You have to have the capability. But so they're both basically $100,000 cars, and I'm looking for something a little bit less pricey. So I've been searching high and low, watching every documentary and review, going to all of the websites from Supercar Blondie to Car Gurus for a Bentley. And
oh, yes. It's
become like an obsession, Hannah.
Why?
And you kind of kicked it off. When you first bought your Rolls-Royce, I was like, that is a that is a baller move. I love it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And then I sort of thought about it for a while and never took it seriously. And then Matt Farah from The Smoking Tire, which I like my favorite podcast, he bought Turbo R, which is the one I wanted.
Yeah,
and
it's a big boy one.
I was kind of like disappointed because I feel like he's going to drive the prices up.
Yeah.
Plus, he's already done it, so I can't do it. So I said, all right, let me look at one generation newer, which is the Bentley Arnage. So the Turbo R was the Bentley badged version of the Rolls-Royce, I think, Silver Spur, right?
Yes, and I will interject where Magnus always says the next Rolls-Royce we get is going to be a Bentley because it's kind of true.
Right. Well,
there's a crossover here.
They tried to make them sportier. Like, I can't remember when Rolls-Royce took ownership of Bentley, but it was, before the war, right? Or somewhere just thereafter.
Yeah.
And then Rolls-Royce focused on Rolls-Royces, and they would badge Bentleys. The idea was they're supposed to be a little sportier. And for the Turbo R, that was the first time it actually happened. I think they made first a Mulsanne R, and that became the Turbo R. And basically, they took the Rolls-Royce 6 3/4 liter V8, and they just put a Garrett turbocharger on it.
We need to get Charlie Agapou on to really lay it down for us.
I would love.
We should get him on. Matt, this is, for anyone listening, he's the, favorite and preeminent Rolls-Royce and Bentley mechanic in Los Angeles. He's 80 years old-ish. Worked back in the day for the Ford pit crew and Ford beat Ferrari. A gem of a guy. Anyway, continue.
I would love to have him on.
We need to have him on.
So, and by the way, I'm looking all these Bentleys I'm looking at on BAT, and somewhere in the comments of every Bentley auction, somebody inevitably says, "Hey, has Charlie worked on this car?"
Yeah. Because if he has, and okay, it's good. It's good.
So anyway, the Turbo R was the first time, I think, in at least decades, let's say, that Bentley really differentiated itself from Rolls-Royce in terms of, the power and the handling. They made the car stiffer. They put a turbocharger on it. It was a lot faster. So it's, I think, the obvious choice to get over the Silver Spur of the era. But Matt Farah has gotten one, and so I thought, let me look at some other Arnage reviews. There's a ton of really cool long-term owner or just classic car buff reviews on YouTube. The Bentley Arnage came after, and a lot of people will say it was the last real Bentley, because then there was the whole thing with BMW and Volkswagen like fighting for control of Bentley and Rolls-Royce. But this was the last like fully British, in crew, designed, and then built there, Bentley the Arnage. And it gets a lot of power. Like the T got, I think, over 460 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque, which is massive. Even today, it's massive.
For the time, almost unthinkable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people say it's a stiffer ride than the Turbo R. It's a better handler. I prefer the look slightly of the Turbo R, but now the Arnage has grown on me. And by the way, these cars, the Turbo R and the Arnage, you can get high mileage versions for little, like $30,000, $20,000, $30,000.
Now, you texted me a Bring a Trailer link to a 97 Azure.
Yes.
Bentley.
Which is like a convertible Continental. So which is in its own right like a very special car, but there's a guy on YouTube called the Gadget Guru who does these delightful videos about stuff, and one of them is the Bentley. What did he buy, an Arnage or a Turbo? I think he bought an Arnage, right? At a Mecum auction in Kissimmee. I think he paid $36,000 for it. And then he had, like, this is a meticulous dude. He had everything all lined up in terms of the dealership he'd already talked to. They knew the car was coming, so he buys it at the auction, has it shipped over to them, and they're like, and they told him beforehand, like, dude, expect at least $10,000 of repairs.
Okay, fine. 10, I understand.
So then they look at the car and they're like, actually, sorry, it's going to be more like $40,000. And he's like, ugh. But then he drives it a little. They look at it a little more. His total repair bill within months after buying it from Mecum was $96,000 on top of the $36,000 he spent to buy the car.
That's more than the value of the car.
Way more.
I question a million things in this story because what would you not see?
So, okay.
I mean, was the floor literally rusting out and he didn't see it? This is so fishy.
You know, what's that? Hoovie's Garage. You ever watch that?
I honestly
he's a YouTube guy and he has awesome cars. But this is what he does. He buys the cheap version of the amazing car that you had the poster on the wall of your bedroom in the 80s, and now you can get it for $20,000, but you have to stick $40,000 into it. He has a mechanic called the Wizard who does his own videos. And he does a video on the Arnage about the things that go wrong. And he says, listen, he's never had a Bentley Arnage in his garage that hasn't got at least to $20,000 in terms of repairs. And there are multiple problems, starting with
suspension.
The suspension for sure, because it's like this weird mineral oil pneumatic thing. Your Rolls might have the same kind of suspension. But the actuator for the transmission, like when you go from park to drive, it doesn't actually move a lever to the transmission. It moves like a little computer actuator that then moves a lever. And of course, they don't make that anymore, even though it's only like 20 years old. Plus, if you want to get a used one, there's one main place to buy used parts for Bentleys in the U.S. called Flying Spares, and for Rolls-Royces as well. You may know it. If you go to Flying Spares and say, I need an actuator for the transmission of an Arnage, they say, get in line. So does everybody. And when one pops up used and reconditioned, it goes instantly. It's already been spoken for, so forget about getting one. The steering rack, when you have to repair that, $20,000, $15,000. The suspension, as you mentioned, is multiple thousands of dollars per part, right? Like a control arm. You're talking about $1,500, $2,000 a piece. And then, the tires are an issue. The Bentley Turbo R wheels only fit tires made by Avon, and Avon doesn't really make them that much. They'll make batches.
I doubt it. Where are you getting this information?
I've been looking. I've been digging so deep.
I think I want to do a phone a friend. I need to phone a friend. I need to call my friend Steve Serio. Steve listens to this podcast every week with his sons, Enzo and Rocco. And you guys, I think they could help us because this is seeming wildly. I'm unsure. Well, I don't claim to know the world of Bentleys yet, but we may need to phone a friend.
Well, we'll continue to talk about and I want to interview Charlie. I will just end by saying what I found through my search for a cool Bentley, and I was looking for Continental GT Bentleys, before the Germans totally owned it, right? Even though those are really cool, they're amazing cars. I've driven them. I love them. It's not the same kind of thing. What I landed on is the car I want is the Continental T. So after the Turbo R and before the Arnage, they made the Continental, which is not the Continental GT that you see now.
This predates that.
It predates that. And it kind of is like a 560 SEC, like a W126,
C126. Double yes on that.
They're beautiful.
Love it.
Probably not as well built as the Mercedes, but at the time they were the most expensive.
They're not meant to run.
At the time they were the most expensive car in the world. And they had the Continental R, and then they shortened the wheelbase and put some more power under the hood and called it the Continental T. And I think that's the one to get. But and I think you could probably get a well-sorted one for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. But I'm just scared that after that, the repair bills are going to be the same or more.
It's a valid concern. I did hear somebody say, "Oh, it's British. It's not meant to run every day." He wasn't bothered by it. It's just the nature of the business.
Well, I can't have that personally.
There is something to be said for, I feel like in these later model Bentleys and Rolls-Royces, I totally agree. They're super cool, and I would want one too. But of course, it's cheaper when everything's analog, which is why my 75 Rolls-Royce, yes, I've had to make a few minor repairs, but everything's cheaper because it's all analog. It's none of this high-tech computerized stuff.
I think you're 100% right. What you want is I would have to throw away my dream of the Arnage and the Continental because what you want is only the analog vehicles, which is maybe 89 was the last year for an analog vehicle, and then before that you're good. after that, it's too terrifying.
But I do think in terms of 1990 and 2000 era cars, Mercedes is great. I don't know about Bentley.
Yeah, well, Mercedes is like over-engineered, the highest quality, and that's... So after my obsession got deep and dangerous with Bentleys last week, and then I started seeing the costs, it scared me out of it, and then I went straight back to looking at a W126. Like, I'm feeling this. Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're just not as powerful, because you're getting maximum 300 horsepower from the factory out of any Mercedes before the 2000s. And these Bentleys were putting out 400, 420, obviously my favorite number, 450, 460. So, they're putting out a lot more power. All right, that's all we have time for today. But it's been great talking to you, Hannah. So glad you're back in the U.S.
Me too.
I'm going to beg, like Dan Barbosa, to send you a Super Duty with a big diesel motor in it.
Great.
Ford.
Thank you. I can't wait to try it.
And because I think it's really a luxurious experience. People think of them as work trucks, but I think it's luxurious.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yes, you will. I'm Matt Miller.
I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Bloomberg.